Hugo Ekitike to Liverpool. Here we go. So the deal is worth 95 million euros. Fabrizio broke it down on YouTube a little bit. It's 80 million euros base, 10 million in attainable, easy add-ons, and then 5 million in more difficult add-ons. He didn't clarify what those are, but realistically, it's probably going to be a 90 million euro deal in total for Hugo Ekitike, and I think this is a good move. I think he's a little overpriced. That doesn't mean that I don't like him as a player and that he won't hit that evaluation in the future, but I think Liverpool couldn't have gotten a better deal on it. So you kind of have to like suck it up and just pay what you want for him. But I think this is like a similar to Sheshko where they're trying to charge upwards of 92 million, and I don't think either of them are worth that. But if you go out and you're willing to pay the price, like a Liverpool or an Arsenal or a Chelsea, teams that are going to be competing for big trophies next year, then you kind of have to bite the bullet sometimes, because this piece could be worth 100, 120, 130 million, similar to Isak, who Ekitike gets compared to all the time. And if you watch him a little bit, you do some scouting, you understand why. So the pros of Ekitike, he could take on his man really well. He's good at creating chances, either like coming off of the wing or quick inside the box, just flicking it on, leaving it for someone to run onto. He's quick. He's quick in tight spaces too. His close control is very good. He's got a big, lanky frame. He uses his body well. He's skinny, but he's like deceptively strong. He holds off people in the Bundesliga pretty well. His shooting form is a lot better than someone like a Sesko who just kind of rifles the ball. But he does struggle, not finishing, but shooting and getting it blocked a lot, or shooting and getting it off target from distance. But he does shoot a lot, so it does lower his like shot accuracy a bit because he takes so many shots. And I'm sure that came a lot more of them came towards the end of his Frankfurt time because Marmoush left, so now he's the main guy up front. But I don't think that's anything to worry about. I think he did great this year. I think this was his breakout year. If you look, he hasn't put numbers up close to this, which can be a red flag to people, but I think it's a sign of things to come. I think this is a good talent. He does need to develop a little more, and it's a little scary with someone that's 23 that they seem a little too old nowadays. Most people are coming up at 19, 20, 21, and whether or not they're a bust or not. But there's players like Ekitike, like Gyökeres, even similar kind of to Harry Kane, even though he did come into it at 21, 22 years old, that develop a little later. And it's funny to say that 21 and 22 are a little later, but I think Ekitike won't be the next Isak. I don't think he'll be that good, but I still think he will be very good. I think he needs a year or two to really develop, and in Liverpool, they're probably the most and best attacking team in the Prem. You think, they're going to bring in someone like Rodrigo. They already have Salah, Verts behind him to create, McAllister, Szoboszlai, attacking wingbacks that will create chances for him. And I think this is probably the best place he could go to develop. Obviously, there's an element of risk. Will he pan out? I don't think you'll see that this year. I think you'll see flashes. I think he'll probably bag 12 to 15 league goals, maybe 20 plus goals in total in the league, in all competitions, because you expect Liverpool to do well in the Cups and go far in the Champions League. I think that's a decent season for him. I think that's good. It's his first year in the Prem. You got to adapt to the physicality of the league. You got to adapt to the play style of a different team. And you have to adapt to playing in the Champions League, because he hasn't played in the Champions League in a couple of years since his PSG days. And he banged in the Europa League. I thought he was pretty good against most of the teams. The main issue, I would say, is the biggest game that I saw, the most I've watched of him, was the two legs against Spurs. And he scored a great goal, but I feel like outside of that, he kind of got nullified by a Spurs team that's a lot better in Europe. They were a lot better defensively, but they are one of the worst defending teams in the Prem last year. Not on paper, because I think Van de Ven, Poro, Romero, and Udogi as a starting back four is very good. It's probably one of the top 7 or 8 defenses in the league on paper, maybe even higher than that. But they did give up a lot of chances because of how Ange plays, and I think Ekitike didn't do well defending us. I mean, that's his biggest experience with Premier League defenders, so it's the only way you can kind of gauge him on how he can adapt to the league directly. That's the Premier League team. He directly played them, and I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was great. I think he got nullified a lot. I think they kept him out of the box a lot, kept chances from really coming to him, which Spurs are a lot better team than Frankfurt, but last season they finished 17th. They won the Europa League, but they were 17th in the league. They were decent in the cup competitions, but they weren't one of the best teams in the Prem. So I think Ekitike, one attribute I do really like about him in his finishing is his kind of like improvised finishing. He's got long legs, so he just pokes the ball, kind of past people. He hits it from weird angles. I think that's a, I think that's something good for a lot of strikers that a lot of strikers are scared of now. They want to get a clean hit on the ball, and sometimes if you just toe poke it, you could get it under the keeper. These weird angles, you don't really see a lot of players finishing like that anymore. And I think that's a really big positive. Someone that has the confidence to shoot, someone that could generate good power off the slightest of touches on the ball, and someone who could hold the ball up well and is a threat in the box. I think he was one of the top strikers when it came to touches in the box and for progressive passes. So you expect someone like this to be able to create in and outside of the box and hold up play for his teammates to create chances for them. So when it comes to Ekitike, I think this is a great deal. I think it's a little overpriced, but if he does pan out anywhere close to Isak's level, if he bangs in 15 plus goals in the Prem that next year, 20 plus in the year after that, 25 to 30 in all competitions, I think this would be a really dangerous player added to a very already dangerous team. So yeah, I think this is a good deal for Liverpool. Obviously, they're gutted to miss out on Isak, but I think this means they're now going to shift focus towards Rodrigo. You see the reports today that Luis Diaz is high on Bayern's list still. They still want to make that bid for him. Fabrizio kind of echoed that. But they also did mention that Malik Fofana is a target for Bayern. So maybe if Diaz is seen as too expensive or unattainable, they'll shift to that. But I think Diaz will still end up leaving, if it's not to Bayern, somewhere else, because it seems like the player really wants to go. And I think that only opens up space for Rodrigo with the type of money that he would be going on and his role in the squad. So I think Liverpool look really dangerous. I think this is a serious move from them. I think they're still my favorites to win the title next year. And I'm a little jealous. I prefer Gyökeres to Ekitike, but I think their team with Ekitike and Rodrigo is the best line in the Premier League, and the best front line in the Premier League, and the two most dangerous wingers in the league if he were to come in. So yeah, that's it for today. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. I'll see you in the next one.